In this lesson, we're going to go over everything you need to know about snaps, especially grid snaps. Snapping means you can move an object to a specific point controlled by something. So the grid snap is you'll move an object along the grid. So I've already made some objects for this demo. So we can take a look at. So I have a cube here, a layer of the cube, and I'm going to pick the object. So I'm going to go over here to the toolbar, and I'm going to select the object. Okay, now it's selected. All right. So now when I want to move it with a snap, so now I've picked it, I got a move command. So now I can just move it wherever I want. It'll go any place. Okay, I can move it up in the air, up above, I can move it around, I can move it over here, etc. So I'm going to Control Z, get it back to its center point there. So now I want to move it, but I want to have it move exactly on these grid points. Like say I'm doing a real architectural type model, like with a building, and it has to fit on exact points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to the status bar, and these up here has a lot of controls as to how you can select things. They're like almost like filters. So I'm going to switch on snap to grid. Okay, now you'll see what happens when I move this cube. Now if I zoom around a little bit, you'll see it stays constrained to the grid there. I can't move it. It won't move off of the grid. Okay, like I can try and, if I move it up, it's still kind of snapping to a grid in space. But so and if I try and move it on one of these axes, you'll feel like when you try this, you'll feel it. It kind of feels like it clicks. So like if you're building like a building or walls or anything with boxes and things like this, this is a great thing. You'll set your grid to a certain size and you'll move your objects exactly to spots. So it's a very, very helpful tool and probably one of the most useful snap tools in Maya. So, but I wanted to show you another thing. We can constrain or snap to a curve. So I got a curve here. I'm just going to pick it. I have a few things displayed. We'll get into displays on objects and different elements later. But what I have here is its edit points. These are the points that are on the curve. So I just put those on just so we can see what's happening a little better. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get off of the grid snap here. And the next one over here is the snap to curves. So what happens here is, let me actually turn this, I'll move it along. Okay, so now I'm going to move this object, but you'll see I can't move it off of the curve. Like it won't allow me. It has to stay on the curve, okay? You can't move it. I'm actually trying to move it and it won't move off of the curve. So if you want something to stay on a curve, or if you have a curve in space, like when we start doing some modeling with curves, snap to curve is going to become really important. So, and then if I want, I can turn that off. Say if I move this off into space here, okay, and then I turn on curve snap again, what it will do is it should still snap right into place onto the curve, okay? So I'm going to undo all that, okay? I'm going to turn off snap to curve, okay? And as I said, when you start building things with curves, this will become really handy because you'll have to build something right off of one of these curves. So that's snap to curve. I'll switch off this layer. And now we're going to do snap to vertex. So I'm going to turn on this. I built a little cone here. Let me zoom in a little bit more so we can see this example a little better. Let me turn off the cube first, explain what's going on here. So what I've done here with this one is I have set the display so you can actually see all the vertices on this object. So this will also be explained in a couple other lessons too, but you can go, if you can pick an object, you can go to display, you can go to polygons, and you have all kinds of other things you can display, components of the actual model. So that comes in handy for an example like this, because I needed to have these displayed permanently, because what happens is you can access these sometimes when you're modeling, but only temporarily. So I wanted to have them on all through the demo. Okay, so I'm going to switch on the cube. All right, so now when I put on this one, this is going to be snap to vertex or snap to points. So when I pick on this object and I go to move, you'll see what happens. Oops. Yep. Yeah. See, it took me a little while to get off because I was trying to snap to these, but it will only, like, I cannot move this up. Let me go to another viewport. Like, this is a good example here. Okay, so I'll turn this off, and then I can move this anywhere. I can move it whatever I want, right? But then when I turn it back on, it goes right to that point, that little vertex point there. And I'm pulling on it and it will not allow me to go up, okay? So that's how snap to vertex works. And as you start modeling more and more in Maya and get more sophisticated with things, you're going to be doing a lot of these, especially when you start doing polygon editing. Then you're really going to be moving these points. And when you start modeling with curves, then you're going to be, connecting things to those curves, and you're going to want to have snap to curve, snap to grid, all these little things you're going to be using. Okay, so that's the basics of all the snap controls in Maya. So let me put this back on to the main one, and let me move this down, finish up the model. So we'll see. See, I'm going to move this back down. See, I'm snapping down to where its original point was. I'll turn off the vertex model, and there you go. That's snapping. All right, on to the next lesson.